Folks, welcome to Fumes for Friday. If this is your first time joining us, I'm glad you're here. And as you know, Fumes for Friday is meant to help you make it through the end of the week and into the next week. These are lessons shared by Tampa Bay Area Writing Project teacher consultants who've been through our Summer Leadership Institute. And if you're interested in more of those lessons or in more of TBAWP's offerings, you can find out more at our website, tbawp.com. Tonight, I'm very excited to have a lesson from TBAWP teacher consultant Courtney Nickel. And so she's going to share some things with us. There'll be opportunities to write, to share your writing, and to talk about writing teaching. So without further ado, then I'll turn it over to Courtney.
Thank you. So my lesson tonight is going to be called Seasoning with Syntax. It's a lesson I've wanted to do for a while, and so I've been playing around with the concept, and we'll see how it goes tonight. So what I want you to do is I want you to warm up with some writing. I'd like you to spend 5 minutes, and I just want you to write about your day in paragraph form. So try to use adjectives and adverbs where you can, and be as specific as you can. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. And ready, go. left. Okay, so go ahead and stop. And I want you to just put this to the side. We're gonna get back to that. Oh no, we're gonna share it right now. So would anybody like to share what they wrote? Let's hear about our days.
Okay. Today I woke feeling refreshed after a sound sleep, but the usual anxiety quickly settled in. The topic this time, how to celebrate my colleague, mentor, and friend, Dr. Pat Jones, founder of TBAWP. For months, I'd worried about her retirement, not only because it would mean losing a senior colleague, but because there was no way I could top the 20-year anniversary celebration or even the annual conference. What could I say during a sad Zoom call with university administrators in the allotted 5 to 7 minutes per retiree to honor the impact of our brilliant, beautiful, beatific, Buddha-like founder? That's as far as I got. But you know the rest.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Well said, Dr. Sherry. Well said.
Sam, let's hear about your day.
Oh, okay. Walking into my classroom today was overwhelming. My para was out. I had to cover my own lunch. It was another day of testing, 3 of 4. Another 80 minutes of walking around the room, unable to do anything else. At least I got my steps in. As I walked around my room, I once again felt pain for the 10-year-olds taking a mandated state test after all that they have been through. I realized then that my feeling of being overwhelmed and stressed probably wasn't outweighing theirs. After testing, I took my kiddos outside for a half hour of freedom, a half hour to just be kids. No testing, no expectations, no worries. That's as far as I got.
Nice. Can I have one more share?
I can go.
Yay.
Woke up smiling with the imprint of the Caldecott medal sticker on my cheek. Turns out Neil Gaiman's Graveyard book makes a fine pillow. I check in, surprised no nightmares were inspired by the jacks of all trades. I check in with myself again. It's Thursday, so there's no run today. It gives me more time to whip up a delicious banana blueberry cinnamon shake. Sorry, Courtney.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm sure I don't have to tell you all this, but syntax is the ability to construct phrases and sentences out of morphemes and words. And it's the part of the grammar that represents a speaker's knowledge of the structures and their formation is called syntax. In other words, syntax is the study of sentence patterns of language. Now, I really love shows like Without a Trace or CSI. I like those crime shows a lot of times. And I love the whole concept of forensic analysis. And one of the things that you can see in society in these shows a lot of times is that they do handwriting analysis. But another concept that can be explored is something called linguistic analysis, because we all have specific ways that we write that are indicative of ourselves. In fact, there are companies out there that do forensic text analysis now. And what they'll do is they'll look at the authenticity of documents to determine whether or not somebody actually wrote them. We've seen that in the past with Shakespeare. There's a whole bunch of analysis. Did he write these? Did he not? And they look at what's a concept called stylometry, 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 and basically to see what a person's writing style is. And they're able to figure out, did a person specifically write this? So I thought the concept was kind of cool of how do we write ourselves? What makes us writers, like distinguish ourselves as writers, and how are we different from each other? So before we go any further tonight, I want everybody to tell me, what did you have for dinner tonight?
I had salmon and mixed vegetables.
Okay.
Black bean tacos.
Okay.
A fake chicken curry over rice with broccoli.
Okay. Bob had dim sum. I had a Greek salad.
Potato chips, not gonna lie.
Okay. So one of the things yeah. So one of the things that winds up happening is, especially during, what's fake chicken? Eric, what is fake chicken? Tofu chicken?
Pigeon. No, nobody thought that was funny. Okay. It was Morningstar, I think was the brand. No, Gardein.
Oh, so it's like the plant-based.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So one of the things that I find, I love to cook, and a lot of times I won't follow a recipe, and that often creates to me the best meals. However, I do find myself often getting into the same rut of serving the same meals over and over again. I put the kids' mac and cheese up there because it's almost very childlike, where we have the same meals. Kids don't have a very big palate, and I love different types of food, and I love flavorful food. I love Indian food. I love Thai food. And so when I get to have that, it's so much of a treat because it's just out of the norm, if that makes sense. Do you all find that you fall into the same realm of having the same things for dinner over and over again? Okay. I see Eric shaking his head, so that's good. Thank you, Eric. Okay. And so I ask you that question for a specific reason, and it would be nice to tell you that reason if my PowerPoint would change to the next slide. Here we go. So our writing sometimes is similar to our eating habits. We fall into the same patterns. We have Taco Tuesday, pasta, pizza, chicken, not fake chicken, and veggies. We tend to eat meals of substance. Okay, they do the job. They check the box. Okay, I had dinner, I had my protein, I had my veggie, good to go, great. But a lot of times these meals aren't memorable and they aren't flavorful, if you will. So we need to change that up sometimes. We need to add some spice, not cinnamon. I was telling them beforehand that I found out I have a bad reaction now to cinnamon, which I love. And so I'm like, no, it's such a good spice. But so playing around with syntax in our writing can get ourselves to stretch ourselves as writers a little bit. We tend to fall into the same patterns and we don't realize that we're doing that. So if it's something that we pay attention to and really mix it up, we can kind of grow a little bit as writers. So for example, here is my paragraph that I wrote. As usual, I woke up before the alarm, took a shower, and then brushed my teeth. I got dressed, my usual for working from home, yoga pants and a tee. Then I took the dog for a walk down the street. When I got back, I brewed myself a cup of tea and logged into the computer for work. What seemed like an eternity later, I got up from my desk and was able to take a break from Zoom. Quickly threw in a load of laundry on my lunch break and scarfed down a salad. Headed back to work and spent the rest of the day checking emails, grading assignments, and Zooming with students. After school, I helped children with their assignments, and then I helped my children with their assignments, and then went outside to chat with my neighbors. It was starting to get late, so I came back in and made dinner. Then I tutored and went to my TBAWP meeting. So the paragraph's pretty ordinary or very bland. Many times when we write, we fall into that same pattern, and we just need to add some flavor. And I love this picture of the girl with the Brussels sprout because everybody's always like, blah, Brussels sprouts. But if you've had Brussels sprouts with like balsamic and they're roasted, or they're so good, it totally changes the whole flavor of that Brussels sprout. It gives it some flavor and it gives it some seasoning. Okay. So what I want to do real quick is just a little bit of an exercise. I want us each to spend no more than 30 seconds, but I want you to create a sentence using these words. And you should have the ability to annotate, to write them on the screen. Okay. So as soon as you have it, and it's okay if you have a similar sentence than everybody else, I just want you to make one sentence how you normally would write using these words.
You say that again, Courtney?
You should have the ability to annotate, which if you go up to the settings of Zoom, you should be able to write on the screen in theory. If not, we can throw it in the chat. But I want you to just make a sentence using all of these words. You can also add in other words if you need to. Sam, you have to use the words on the screen. All of them.
All those words in one sentence.
Yes. All right. Just pick 3 if you need to. Or 2. Eric, I just see a dot there of yours. I don't see anything else. Good. You should be able to make a text box. Bob. Or if you want to throw it in the chat, if it's easier, I can put it up on the screen as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got a pen, but it doesn't say text box.
All right, throw it in the chat and I'll put yours up there. Carly, I don't know if I see yours. I just see soccer from you. So if you want to do the same thing, I can. Okay. So as we start to look at these, you're going to notice that we use the same words, but we each gave it our own variety. The sentence that I wrote that's written in red, it's a little difficult to see on the orange background. Okay, so here is Bob's. Let me put this on here. But the sentence that I wrote in red at the top is kind of what our students probably would write, okay? Subject, predicate. The girl was running fast down the soccer field and kicked the ball. Very basic. And sometimes I feel like when I'm writing, I follow that same pattern over and over again. And so here we go. We've got my friend who happens to be a girl who likes to play soccer. Weird, I know, was running down the hall the other day and kicked this kid's backpack, nearly tripped landed in the face, which would have been terrible because Mr. Fields was right there and not yelling us to run in the hall. but we all had. Okay. So we've got a whole bunch of different variety here. Same basic concepts, but we've given these sentences spice. We've gone from a basic one, and I know you all, because you're teachers and you're TBAWPers, you started to look at this and said, okay, well, how can I make it a little bit different from everybody else's? And that's a good thing. So I'm gonna clear the screen for a second, okay, and we're gonna move on. But I love these sentences because I think they're really good. They don't. I gave everybody permission to just like write all over the PowerPoint. They're good because they give us a little bit of variety, and we see how we each use the concepts differently. Okay. Oh, I love Zoom annotation. Okay. So now I just have to make sure I get my screen back as I click. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to look back over our writing in a second, and we're going to rearrange our words and pay close attention to our syntax. You're going to go sentence by sentence, and you're going to rearrange. If you normally put your subject first, consider switching and putting the verb first, or the adjectives or adverbs. And when you do this, maybe consider revising the other words in the sentences to make it flow better. So I'm going to show you, we talked about subject, predicate, and here's some examples. Yours were much better than mine. So, but I went very basic, okay? Down the soccer field, the girl ran and kicked the ball. Running down the soccer field, the girl kicked the ball. Kicking the ball, the girl ran down the soccer field. And kicking and running, the girl chased the ball down the soccer field. So lots of different options to convey different meanings. So here is my my syntactical pattern that I had. I've got to move this out of the way so I can see it a little bit better. But I want you to explore your syntactical pattern in a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm playing with the microphone again. Yep. Okay. I won't touch it. I have to hold things while I talk. So, okay. So as usual, I woke up before the alarm. So I changed that a little bit and put usual occurrence, awake before alarm. I took a quick shower and then brushed my teeth. Becomes shower quick, brush teeth. So again, I'm chopping things, I'm moving things around. Just pay attention to how you're writing and see if you can change it up a little bit. So that was my poetry example I think I made, and here's a different one. As usual, I woke up before the alarm. Alarm hadn't gone off yet, and I was awake, a usual occurrence. I took a quick shower and then brushed my teeth. Now becomes quickly showered and then brushed my teeth. You all get the point of that. But you can do examples in poetry or prose, but it helps kind of give you some variety. But I really want you to spend a couple minutes and revisit your daily stories and take a look and see, is there a pattern to how you're writing? And can I spice it up a little bit and change it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the timer again for, how long do you guys want? Do you want 5 or 10 minutes? I figure like 10 is probably better, but it's up to y'all.
What exactly are we doing?
You're going back to your daily stories and you're switching up the syntax of how you wrote them.
5 minutes sounds fine to me, but
Okay. How about I do 5 and then we'll see where we're at if we want more. Okay. 5 minutes. Go ahead. Begin. So that was 5 minutes. Do you want more time or is everyone good?
I don't know about other people. I didn't finish, but I definitely did the activity in terms of like revising a few sentences, and it's in different syntax.
Okay. Did you notice a pattern to your writing, Eric, at all or no?
Oh yeah, I end every sentence with a dependent clause. Everything is like the whole sentence and then me rambling commentary. Sentence and me rambling commentary. Sentence and that thing you needed to know that isn't a complete sentence. Like,
did you know that you do that?
I'm aware that I write labyrinthian sentences.
Okay.
I don't know if this is something I always do. I'm curious now to look at other writing, but I definitely went through and like the first, I only wrote 4 sentences the first time and they're long. And the first 3 all were like the sentence, the independent clause, and then a comma, and then a dependent clause. So I was like, okay, we can mix that up.
Well, it's funny because one day, we have that app for school where it's the group me. And so the kids are always say, we know when Miss Nickel writes something because she always says, whatever I'm supposed to say, ... And I use the ellipsis and I use that all the time. So in all of my texts, and then I started looking back and I was like, wow, I really do use the ellipsis over and over and over again. It's just, my signature that's what I do. Anybody else?
My dad does the same thing.
Does he?
Yeah, the ellipses. He used to have to write all these speeches for being in the Army and being an officer. And at some point, I started reading his speeches for him right before he was going to retire. And at this point, I was in high school and everything. And I was like, why don't you ever use a period? Why does every sentence end in you forgetting how to end a sentence? That's when he was like, shut up, English major. And I was like, I'm a sophomore, dude.
That's so funny. Anybody else notice anything about their writing?
Yeah, I noticed a pattern that's a bit like Eric's, but kind of the reverse. It's like always starting something with like, when I da 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 da, and then or before going to the blah 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 da da da. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna like make all of these sentences start with subject, no dependent clauses, and see what happens. Or maybe start with, just do something like you did and be like, awake, too early for the alarm, refreshed, yes, but anxious. See what, give it a little like Dashiell Hammett type flavor.
Cool. Yeah, to give it a flavor. Yep. Anybody else?
I tend to also start with the dependent clause and then end with my independent clause. So I'm always Dr. Sherry using my movies. So it's always like, as I was doing this, comma, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah.
So I think, and I'm kind of excited because I was like, I don't know if they're like digging this or not, but I think as writers, it's important for us to look at our own writing and really analyze it. We do a lot of reflective writing, and we write about things and reflect on them, but we don't really look at how we're writing per se and reflect on that. And I like the concept of being almost like a forensic text and analyst, and looking over at my writing and seeing, okay, what are the patterns that I have and how can I really stretch myself as a writer? We all know the proper grammatical techniques. We all use that. We teach that most of the time. um, but I feel like this is a good way to kind of push yourself a little bit and get out of the norm and spice up your writing. One last thing I'm going to share with you is that how can you use this in the classroom? Because, it's important. Have them look at their examples of their writing, all of them, and look for patterns. Give them some words to play with. You can do that with manipulatives. Put a whole bunch of words on Legos and have them stack them up and make sentences or connect, things that connect together, or just sentence strips and cut them up with all different words and have them, and like some people have those word magnets in their classrooms too. Those are great. They can also kind of swap paper sometimes and revise each other's sentences and show how could you write a sentence differently, and have them go through, and especially because kids tend to write with that basic subject verb, the girl ran in the park. um, have them go back and start to mix it up a little bit so that they can and combine sentences, and that way they can start to become a little bit more of an advanced writer. But yeah. And that is all that I have for you tonight. Yeah.
Thanks, Courtney.
Yeah, this is terrific. And Courtney, do you share like sample sentence patterns with them, or how do you kind of get your students to begin to be able to see the patterns?
I have not done this yet. This was a TBAWP lesson that I was going to try to do in camp, and I've had this idea in my head for about a year. And I was just trying to figure out how am I going to formulate to do it. So that's why I wanted to kind of test it all out with you guys tonight.
So actually, Courtney, it's funny that you did this because I actually do it in my class quite a bit. Just like we write a story every once in a while, just a short little thing. And then whatever grammar lesson we're learning at the time, I just say, okay, write me a story. You know, this is your topic. Write me about your best day ever, you know, and it could be like they're learning about shifts in verb tense, but they don't know that they're going to eventually go back and check to make sure that they've got shifts in verb tense. But while we do that, we then start looking at like run-on sentences and how can we fix them? Are you using your woobies correctly, or are you not using your woobies correctly? Are your woobies in the middle? Okay, try them at the beginning. So it's awesome to see because, and it's now at the point where the kids will come up and share their writing. They're like, yeah, so I'm getting much better at my run-ons. You know what I mean? So.
I'm hearing the whoopies, and I'm thrilled that you remember that, Sam, and that Eric knows what it is too. Maybe you all know that from, I can't even remember where that comes from now. Is it from Jeff Anderson? Yeah. Okay. Right. That's so cool. I like this for looking at like an author's kind of sentence patterns too.
I think this would be great for a revision lesson for camp, right? For the afternoon. And you don't have to start off with the 5 minutes of writing about your day because they've already been writing all morning about something creative. And this is a chance for them to get in there and play with the language.
Great. All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add or share?
I like what Mike said about, I think this is a very valuable exercise. I mean, I just completely rewrote the whole thing. I was kind of inspired by the short sentences you use. So I just wrote it like, you know, woke up without the alarm, book cradled in my arms, trying to remember if last night's dream belonged to me or the author. So it caused a very different piece that was saying a lot of the same things. So I thought go ahead.
I was saying, I loved your imagery though of the metal pressed up against your face. Though I loved that.
So so I thought that was good, but I like what Mike said. Like, what does it mean to recognize patterns? And if we're going to use it in camp, we have a wide swing, right, between a future, 16-year-old English major and rising third graders. So I think I was just wondering, what would it mean like for the little kids to recognize patterns? Because I'm not going to lie, I was struggling a little bit to see how I would answer that. I mean, I know what it means intrinsically, but I found some dashes. I used a lot of dashes, things like that. And I saw holes, from the first draft, but I was just wondering how we could help them sort of get what that means. And I was just thinking if we couldn't be something as say it the same, but differently. I don't know if that would cause that or not, but that would be enough for littler kids to pick up on.
I think if you had him break it down, like the way you did it, Courtney, with sentence by sentence, I think younger kids could totally handle that. You know what I mean? Okay, let's look at this one sentence. So chunking it out, it makes it a lot easier, not so overwhelming when you're looking at one whole piece. So if you chunk it out and just say, okay, let's look at this one sentence. How can we say the same thing, but exactly what Bob said, but in a different way?
Yeah, and I think it's definitely up to those table facilitators to adjust it for their age level, right? So if you're working with the high schoolers, you're as the facilitator going to start talking about independent and dependent clauses, and they might not even always know that terminology, or they heard it, they don't have it completely yet, but because you're setting that expectation, right? You're talking about that and you're showing them your own writing. That's the beauty of the camp modeling, right? So for the middle schoolers, you might be talking about the awubis, right? You might be talking about closers and openers as opposed to dependent and independent clauses. And then you get down to the elementary school level and they do whatever magic it is that they do, because I don't know how to teach elementary schoolers, right? But that's you. God bless you, Sam.
And I think, I never had proper grammar instruction when I was in high school, and in college I struggled with it a lot. And I think if somebody had said, well, let's look at your writing and see what you have in it, and then and show me in my own writing that this is a dependent clause, and it would be so eye-opening to me that, oh wait, I know what this is, I just don't know what it's called.
But
you know what I mean?
That is proper grammar instruction, right? We know that when you give them a PowerPoint that shows what a dependent independent clause is, and then give them worksheets, it doesn't compute, it's not used, it doesn't stick. I had that and it didn't do me any good. And I still had to reteach myself grammar in college when I decided it mattered and I wanted to edit a short story so I could get it published, right? So what you're doing is the proper way of teaching grammar. We know that. It's actually have them write, actually have them care about what they're writing, right? Give them something they want to write, and then let them get in there and mess around with the language and learn how the language works. Exactly.
Brilliant. What a generative lesson. I love this. Thank you, Courtney. And it was fun to have an outlet to kind of write and rewrite about something that happened, and to see it in different ways because of that. So
Great job, Courtney.
Yeah.
Good job, Courtney.
So we often write something and then it just kind of ends here. And so tonight, the question to close is, what are you going to do with what you just tried out tonight, or what you just learned? What's your next step as a writer?
I actually think I might use mine to show my students how you can change from one saying the same thing, but in a different way. Plus they always like to catch when I do something wrong.
I'd love to use something like this in creative writing when it comes to writing dialogue and distinguishing between the voices of different characters, right? Having characters say the same thing, but then in messing with the syntax, show them how you can make the two characters distinct in the way they speak.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. I don't ever write character dialogue, which is probably like a way to stretch myself to do that, but you do have to anticipate the differences of how they speak and write, and I think that's important.
You made me think about, as a researcher, I've gotten reviews, Eric, like what you said earlier about labyrinthine sentences. I had someone write in a review once that they finally waved a white flag and gave up reading my, draft or something like that. That was like one of those ones that I stick on the board of like the, wall of shame. The wall of like vulnerability, like, because I eventually got that article published. And it's like, see, this is what it took to pass through that. My colleagues all put their published articles on their doors, like on the front of their office doors, but but my English ed colleagues and I, we put our worst reviews up just to show the world that, you know, we're people too. And anyway, I realized that all of that kind of dependent clause, like qualifying, you know, is very much like this kind of academic thing. And I think there are some sections of an article where I want to be much more, you know, and so you've empowered me to try that out tonight, Courtney. Awake, refreshed, but anxious.
Yay.
Folks, thanks so much for being here. Have a great night. Hope to see you at our next Fumes for Friday. Hope this carries you through the end of the week and into the next.